welcome. It's really nice having you guys here this morning, and I'm really excited and maybe a tiny bit nervous, feeling a little bit vulnerable. I felt the same way when I brought my daughter on because I don't know what they're going to say. I'm hoping their experiences were mostly good, but I want you to know even if they weren't, so that so that it's real. You know what it's really like as you get into those later years, and you can learn some things from my mistakes. And I think Steve will do a good job sharing the things that he thought were helpful and the things that were hard that maybe would be better to do a little bit differently. And then maybe how some of those things helped him, how some of his experiences helped or hurt him as he moved forward, and the life things that he's doing. So, thank you. So everyone, this is my oldest son. This is Stevie to me, but now I think are you Steve now?
Anna.
Well, whatever you got, whatever's easiest.
I think he introduces himself now as Steve. So he is turning 30 this year, which is really weird for me, really hard to believe. That just seems impossible. But he homeschooled with us from the very beginning all the way through high school and then went on to college. So I'm just going to let him share his thoughts about.
Really?
Yeah. I'm probably going to have you ladies ask some questions because I think that might make it a little bit easier. But I'm curious to know what you moms most want to know when you talk to somebody who's been homeschooled. And I know that a lot of times you talk about your fears, the things you're worried about, or your stress. You think about or when you think about homeschooling your kids. Okay. So if you have thoughts or questions or concerns, things you want to bring up right now, since you have a homeschooling graduate that you can talk to, and actually, he just this morning completed his final project for his master's, so he's good to go. Aren't you? You're done.
Yep, done.
Yeah. So he's got his master's now. Has a degree in
business administration.
Yep. So that's where he is, and ready to. I don't know what. Do you know?
Not yet.
Yeah, I know. We don't know. So the world is open to him, right? You can do anything you want to do.
More or less.
Yeah. And 4 weeks ago, he had his second baby girl. So he's a daddy as well, husband and father as well. Okay, Sarah, thank you. Awesome. Sarah's got questions. You want to read her questions?
Sure. Okay. What did I appreciate about homeschool? Okay, so for me, I think the biggest thing about being homeschooled was that I loved learning. So I saw that as a huge contrast with all my friends, where school was boring and tiring and something that they had to get done. And and they were so excited to be done with not having to learn anything when they would graduate. They were super excited about anytime they're graduating. In fact, it's carried with me till now. People tell me probably the most common thing that people say as I'm getting close to the end, they're like, "Oh, that's got to feel good. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh, wow, you're about to graduate. Doesn't that feel good?" And at first I was kind of like, I didn't know exactly how to respond to that, because I was like, no, I'm not really excited to be done, because I like the opportunity to be just sitting and learning things on my own, and to have that kind of excuse to be spending full-time learning in a way. And also, well, I'll talk more about what kind of thoughts about that college. But so I think that for me, my biggest number one takeaway from being homeschooled was that I enjoyed learning, and I felt like there was more of that connection between why am I learning this? What am I learning and why? And so that is helps you learn better because you understand what the purpose is there. So I'll leave that at that for right now. Hope that makes sense, and jump into the next question, which is, how did it prepare me for what I'm doing now? Well, so that's a good question because I am just graduated and figuring out what I'm going to do now. But if you want to know how did that compare for college, I think it was ideal. I think when I started college at the community college, so I've done 3 different levels of college, which is I think a cool for me. I thought it was a cool experience because so I did community college, then I did a university to finish that degree, and then I have now done graduate school. So I got to see a little bit of all of them. And for me, it was such an easy transition because it's the same stuff. You're doing homeschool, you're kind of independent. It's like you learn your own things and you're responsible for how it turns out. And that's what it is in college. When I got there, people were not doing their homework. It just didn't make sense. I'm like, what do you mean you're not doing your homework? Like that to this day is still kind of a weird concept to me. You're like, Steve, you got 95% and this is the last assignment. Like, why would you finish it? Well, because it was assigned. I mean, because I can learn something from that, I guess. So I think that homeschool sets you up perfectly, at least the way that my mom did the high school with me set me up perfectly for college, where you're kind of self-directed, you're figuring out your own things, you're trying to learn what you what you figure out what you need to learn, what you need to spend your time on, stuff like that. And then for what I do next, well, I think some of the things that it opened me up to were personability stuff. I wasn't because I wasn't always with because I wasn't always with just a bunch of my peers, that wasn't my natural like thing that I learned was how to interact with not how to interact with other kids, but like I see kids. I actually, so the first time I set foot in a classroom was for my college job. I got a job on a elementary school campus. That was the first time I've been like at a school in a classroom on a school bus, anything like that. So it was really different. Oops, excuse me. I accidentally asked somebody to unmute. Don't unmute. You can stay on mute. It's totally fine. So when I was there on this elementary school, I saw these kids that they were great at interacting with their peers, right? They could lead their games, and they could play around with each other and stuff like that. And that wasn't my normal environment when I was young, just because there weren't a ton of kids around for me to interact like that. But who I interacted with then was adults. And so these kids that I saw at the elementary school, I saw them, they were, so good and easy talking to each other. But they were terrible when I would go and talk to them, or when their professors were like, they're awkward. They're like trying to hide stuff and that just the things that I never had seen until I had the job on the elementary school campus. So I think I kind of skipped this. And I don't know if that was a bad thing. I don't think so, because I learned how to interact with adults, which is what you're going to do your whole life. And I never felt like, and I don't want to sound like, oh, I skipped my childhood or anything, but I feel like I learned how to interact in a higher way, faster. So that was that. What was non-traditional about how for whatever reason there's a little bubble here and I can't see what it says. If Sarah, you can tell me what it says. What was non-traditional about how blank did homeschool?
She might have just been
Sorry, that was my swiping. So just what was non-traditional about how you did homeschool?
No, it's not. It wasn't your typing. It said I had a little bubble and I can't see it on my screen here. So when I started out, my mom did, and she probably talked about this, she did more of a curriculum, yeah, where there was these different, you have your language arts and you have your history and your geography or whatever, and you'd go through your workbooks and do that. And what I remember about that early stage and then the transitions was that we didn't stick to it all the time. That was probably one of the biggest things that I remember, is like we got to be on track, and we got to be doing all the right things, and we're behind on these lessons. And then I remember the supervisors that would come, and my mom, like the week before, be like, "Oh gosh, Stevie, you got to finish this assignment and this assignment, so I have 2 from every subject that I can show you." So I remember like playing catch up on some of the kind of the more step-by-step stuff, which I think is good for what she talks about now, from what I understand. And
Because we did 2 years through a charter with a facilitator and having to do samples and all that. And it was, didn't work for us. So.
Well, I feel like I still learned stuff.
Sure,
I feel like I was still going through the things. But then she did more like, I remember there was still like kind of curriculum-ish, but it was more independent. And then where I feel like where it was the culmination was when I got to high school. And that's when she was like, "Oh, for English, read a book. Go pick a book on the library, read it, and then write something about it. Or go and do, we had like a Saxon math, and we would work through the lessons there. Or I had like a science book and we'd work through. But I really didn't do as, like, I wasn't as diligent, but it was more just like, you figure out what you want to do, and as long as I sign off on it, then it's fine. And so that was pretty non-traditional, I think. Not that I have any other experience, but then let's see, was I pushed or was I free to just play at the younger ages? So I think that answers that question. I had a little bit more of a structure as my mom was kind of figuring it out. I had a lot of freedom. I remember like a week where we had borrowed a video game. I think it's the first Super Smash Brothers for the Nintendo 64. And I was dying to play it. And my mom was like, "You have to finish your school." And so I was like up at 6 a.m. and I finished at 7, and then I got to play during the day for that. So that was fun. So I guess there was a lot of freedom. But do you think it's because you had the freedom to choose what you were learning? That's why I enjoyed learning, I think, is what that question is. Yeah, probably. And also the fact that it was more like, I think I mentioned, like, it was more, there was a clearer application of why am I learning this? So it wasn't like you're just, here's the lesson, you got to learn it. And that's been some of the things that I've hated about college, is the hoop jumping that you have still. So it's still, I mean, it is, like I said, it's a lot more self-directed, but it is still part of the same education system, which is a failure. And they have lots of things that are just like busy work tasks that you got to complete. And I hated that in college. And so I think not seeing the applicability and not having freedom to choose what you want, I think that helped. But I think that was part of the applicability thing, right? Like, I think that was a big thing, was like seeing, why am I learning this stuff, and feeling that. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that does.
To me.
Any questions on that? I'll pause because I just keep going through these lists of questions so far. Okay. Did you do 4 years of homeschooling high school and then start community college, or did you start community college during your high school years? Oh no, I did it after. Yeah, so I finished my high school years. Then I actually had a year where I worked. Yeah, I worked for a year. Then I went on my mission. Then I started community college. That's why I'm 30 and graduating from my master's program. Which I think is fine. Actually, in hindsight, I think it's great, because we have this urge to like rush through so that you can work for the rest of your life. Like that's so exciting. And so I'm not like, that's not the biggest thing I'm excited about graduating at this point, except that I have some cool ideas that I'd like to kind of flesh out. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, I guess the only other reason why I see why you'd want to think of it like start community college early would be if you're just trying to get that piece of paper fast. If you've got like a track and you know what you want to be doing, and it requires a college degree, you know, that piece of paper, which is becoming less and less common. I mean, this is my passion, the thing I'm fascinated about. So I'll talk any questions about anything that anybody wants to talk about, or afterwards, or find me on LinkedIn and ask anything about college and applicability and learning and the workforce and stuff like that. That's what I've been really focusing on for the past like 3 years, probably, but 1 year very intensely. Yeah. So
also, can I jump in and just say the high school years, the reason why we didn't even encourage them to start in college was sort of selfish, but we would go over to the coast. We had a family beach house, and we would go over there for 2 or 3 weeks at a time a few times during the school year, and we didn't want to give that up. And if somebody was taking classes in their whatever it's called, community college, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So we decided we wanted more time to play and be together than to push and rush that.
yeah, but I don't think that college helps anybody decide what they want to do. So whatever, whoever created that deception is high on something. But you don't like figure out what you want to be doing for the rest of your life while you're sitting in a classroom. So I feel like unless you, like I say, unless you know what you want to do and you're like, I have to get through a degree in order to get to that point, and you know, med school or
Engineering.
and, yeah, right, or whatever. And even a lot of those I would question, because there may be an alternative route to get to that point that you don't need that piece of paper. I love that she wasn't afraid of agency later on as she grew confidence. That her talking about, I assume. Good job, Mom. My hubby finished when he was 34.
Nice.
And it was
And
not
he's doing very well.
med school, or because 34 is like a normal age for med school.
Yeah, so he's an MP, but he
Okay.
he has 2 bachelors and then he went and got his master's. So there's no rush. So which is so nice that it's just, you don't have to have an age limit to finish school. And I love that you're like, I'm 30, and I'm like, so what? It's fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, I think that I think that we have this, I mean, carryover culture of it's just a checkpoint. You're just moving through, right? Society, when we created education, it was the Industrial Revolution. So what do we need? We needed people that would follow bells and whistles and stand in an assembly line, right, and follow orders. And so what do we do in school? There's bells, and you stand in line and you follow orders, and you go as a group, and there you have to stay in line with your shift, your class, right? So that was what the school system was designed on. And there's this just kind of chunk process. You go to elementary school, and then you go to college, and then you graduate, and then you get a job, and then you promote through your job in this linear fashion, which happened in the 50s, because in the 50s there was a huge economic boom in the United States. And now I'm getting off topic, but that doesn't exist nowadays, right? It's a tougher, tighter market, and companies are pushing their margins. People are they can't keep you on if you're not providing value, and they've got to justify bringing you on to begin with. And right now it is kind of favorable to the labor market, but it's been not for a while, and this whole gig economy, and you've got to be able to show your value for what you are and what you bring. That is kind of the name of the game in the workforce now. And so that ties in, I think, to what we were talking about before, because we were saying it's not this linear thing where you just go and you just chunk through, and we finished college, and like you were saying, Lindsay and your husband had 2 bachelor's degrees, and then an additional is that a master's, or is it okay? So anyway, so those are thoughts there. Let's see, did you just write up your own diploma? Do you test to get a GED, or do you not even need to do that because you started at the junior college and had transfer credits? No transfer credits, no GED. Because I started, they just have like a placement test that everybody takes. At the community college, it was even if you graduate from high school, you still take the placement tests to see.
And even Sarah at BYU Idaho, it was just
Oh, that's right.
placement test. It's a misconception that you have to have
Some kind of a certified something. Yeah, my dad made my diploma on Photoshop.
Yeah.
And I have submitted it, but like, does it even matter after you get, 4.0 and you're with I graduated with an associate's degree in 4.0 there, and then I was cum laude when I was at for my undergrad, UC San Diego, which is supposedly a prestigious school. I'm told. I didn't know that, but they tell me it's a good school. And so so that was not an issue. I did the ACT, and
you and Sarah both did that, but the other 2 didn't.
Oh, did Kate not do that? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, so I did that. I don't know that did me anything. I mean, I got accepted into BYU twice when I applied at different times, although I didn't go. I did, on the ACT. That was totally fine. The only thing that we didn't do, but this was just a me thing that I feel like was writing. We didn't do as much, like essay writing. I feel like
0. Really.
Yeah, and I feel like
I was afraid of it, so I didn't.
I feel like I would have liked that, getting to write and have feedback, and then write again, because like a lot of classes, you write a paper and you get a grade, and then you write a paper and you get a grade, and you write a paper and you get a grade, and you don't get to iterate on it. I feel like there's opportunity to, if you're focusing on the individual child, to help them improve their ability by giving them a chance to write and then comment on it or talk about it, even at the very least, and they get to kind of form their voice earlier, right? So I was doing that in college, but I did fine. Like I aced all my English classes and writing classes, and I attributed that to reading, but it's also research based, like academic research. They say it's the people that read the most that write the best, and that's what writers say. Read. How do you improve your writing? Read. Right. That's what all the books about writing, which I've read a number of.
That's what I was counting on.
But I still would have liked to develop my own voice earlier. So that's the one thing.
And Dad could have corrected.
Totally. But even then, like I said, if you could have just discussed it as a group, you could have just get, a couple of kids, or you and I, or whatever, could have just read it and talked about it.
Yeah, we never did.
No, I didn't write it. You should have written, and then, and so I was saying that because when I did the ACT, I scored like a 27, which is a respectable score. It's out of 30 or 36 if you do the writing portion, and 20. So like I said, 27 is pretty respectable. But I got a 0 on the writing because I just didn't finish it. I didn't start it, to be honest. So I got to the writing and I was like, okay, I got to think about this, and I was like trying to plan, but I just didn't have a lot of experience, and so the timer went off and I had like a sentence written down. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And finished that sentence, and so I got a 0 on the writing. So I feel pretty good about that. 27. I feel pretty proud about that, because I'm like, man, if I sucked on my writing and did like a 3, it would have been like 30, which is really good. But so that's my little bragging. I brag. I don't normally brag, by the way, but I will brag because my mom's here and I'm trying to make her feel better about what she did. So, did you feel prepared for college? Absolutely. I think I talked about that. I think I was like totally feel prepared. Maybe not totally, actually. I was kind of like, what is going on? What am I doing? I took a stupid class that my uncle taught, and that was nice because it was
Is it a group?
No, it was not
it's
required.
not. It's not
It was
like
just like an extra class. And that was nice because it didn't really matter and it was kind of pretty easy. And I could see, oh gosh, I can do really well without really tried super hard. Do you feel like you struggled fitting in during college? So I worked doing college because I had paid for myself the whole time. So I always had a job and was in classes. And so I wasn't around a lot. So and besides, I feel like it's so pointless. Honestly, the college system is totally weird. And I don't know, there's good things and bad things about the way they do it. But I in my master's program, it's a lockstep cohort program, which is jargon for everybody's in the same class with the same people the whole time. And that was awesome. Like I was absolutely fit in there. I loved the people. We just had our final party last night. And like I said, 2 hours ago, the last presentation, I loved the people there. Like I loved working in the groups there. I naturally was just the leader and whenever we had little team groups and exercises, and I was, it was fun because I had a personality and a figure in the class, and they had running jokes with the whole class with me, and just like with other people, right? So as a homeschool kid, like one of the most common things that people say is, "What? You were homeschooled?" And I don't know whether to be offended or compliment, like feel good about that. But I usually tell people, look, it's got a bad rap because historically, or at least when I was there, a lot of the reason you would homeschool is like because you're maybe your kid's kind of weird and has problems in school. Like he would have problems in public school fitting in socially. And so you say, oh, poor guy, let's pull him out and homeschool him. And that's fine. That's respect. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I'm just saying, I think that was like the main thing is like, if your kid doesn't do well in school, pull you out. Or alternatively, your parents are weird and they're like, yeah, we're going to do homeschool. That's all of you guys and my mom. And I think that maybe that if you're weird and then you're going to raise your kids to be weird too. So I probably am a little bit weird, but I feel like, but I feel like that's more of just like some of the, I don't know, what do you call that, sampling bias, right, in statistics, where it's just the nature of it brought a bad reputation, and now it's starting to become so much more mainstream and common that that's starting to go away. But that's one of the most common things. Yeah, I definitely feel like I fit in great. In fact, when I was in undergrad and I was busy with school, so I didn't really associate a lot with the kids there, I still fit in really well with the high performers. So anybody that was like getting A's and talking about how can I get an A plus, I was friends with those people.
Well, and with your professor.
Right. Yeah. So I did while I was at the community college. I was recommended to go be a tutor, and I feel like I was a great tutor, I think, and because I understood the learning process and I liked the learning process, so I was helping people with the learning process rather than sitting there for my job. And then I got recommended to be a specialized supplemental instruction leader, and then I got recommended to train the other instruction leaders, selected to do that, like a lead supplemental instruction leader, whatever it was. So I did well there, and then when I got to the university, UCSD, I had a great time with the other kids that I knew, even though it wasn't necessarily all the ones at class, just because I feel like it was, I don't know, to fit in college in a typical like university, you go to the parties and you go to the games and you talk about, sports and stuff like that. It just didn't feel like super meaningful to me. So I fit in with people that also had those same values. Any follow-up questions on that? I'm happy to answer whatever you're curious about. I feel like I'm telling more details than what.
No, you're doing great. And just give them a little bit. Sometimes it just takes a minute to formulate a question. So just in case anybody has anything you want to ask him directly. Oh, there we go.
Does my wife want to homeschool? Yeah, we're homeschooling our kids.
Yay.
She was like a little hesitant about it at first just because of like, am I able to do this? But she also sees like the trends in the world, and so it's really easy to be like, well, what's the alternative? and she went to a private school in Brazil because the public schools were getting bad while she was there, and so
We
her
might not all know that you've married a
Brazilian.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's super hot. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I really like my wife. She's cool. She's from Brazil. She was doing an exchange program in San Diego. She had a bunch of friends in Utah and Idaho, and so she applied for this exchange program. She's like, please let me get somewhere in Idaho or Utah. And she makes this connection with somebody in Escondido, California. She's like, Escondido, where the heck is that? Fine. And goes, the family picks her up, and the first place they take her is the beach. And she's like, oh, this is Escondido. So we met while I was at school down there, and we had our first conversation at a Halloween party where we were the only two people that knew each other, and we started talking about Brazilian jazz, and mostly over Google Translate, like passing our phone back and forth, writing it. And that was super cool. I was studying linguistics at the time. And so I realized she was awesome. And I just asked her out. Anytime she was available, I asked her out so somebody else couldn't ask her out. And we started dating after a couple months. And then a couple months after that, I was like, okay, if this is going to be serious, I want to be able to speak your language. So I told her, I was like, just cold turkey, tomorrow we're only going to speak Portuguese. And it was really hard. And I typed a bunch of stuff in Translate, and I did the best I could. I'd been reading some in Portuguese before that, but within 3 months, I was conversational, and 6 months, I confidently can say I was fluent. And now I've given like lectures in Portuguese. I can translate. I don't know if I translate better than she does, but I kind of think I do. So
she thinks you do, but you had a little bit of motivation
she does a
to
good
learn
job.
the language.
That's
so.
true. That's true. But it was super fun. Anybody wants to talk about learning languages, I'll talk about that too offline. So that's my wife, and she already had kind of accepted that idea of like, I don't want to put my kids in public school, but didn't really know what the other options were. And because I was there and I was like living proof of, hey, this is fine, it works, you can slack off and go to the beach for a lot of the time, and you'll still be fine afterwards. So I've always done well in my jobs, which I've had a ton of, and so I've got really good prospects getting out of school right now. But I'm kind of trying to start this sort of business thing that may be on the side, which is related to being more effective at preparing you for the workforce, or building your own personal ability to contribute in your career, which I kind of had this epiphany the other day, and I was like, career is the way you contribute to society. It's like, what do you do to contribute to society? Does that include volunteer stuff? Absolutely. Does that include what you do to make money? Sure. Yeah. Because if you are independently wealthy, and you can still continue your career and contribute to society. And so how do I figure out the best way to optimally contribute to society? And it's not the education system as we have it today, except for the fact that it's been in the past the ticket, that piece of paper that you need to have to go and be effective. But there's starting to be so much more of this kind of what do they call it? Oh my gosh, I talk about it all the time. Competency-based learning, where you demonstrate the thing that you're learning. And so there is no like exam. It's just like, did you do it? Can you do it? Like, get out there in the real world and let's show us that you can. And Google's doing that, and Tesla's doing that, and they're saying, you know what, you don't need a college degree. And guess what? States are starting to do that, and they're slashing like 95% of their jobs that have had a requirement for a college degree, and they don't necessarily anymore. No, they don't. They have officially eliminated that from the job description, because they're like, actually, you can get by without a college degree. It doesn't necessarily add the value that it used to in the past. It's not a for sure. There can be, and I think there's exceptions. I think there's great professors. My dad's a professor, and those I think the people that do a good job, that's great. But I think that not only are they an exception to the rule in public in the education system, I think that they're working against the current. I've looked and thought and brainstormed about this. The education system as we have it is set up to pump people through that are actually lower performing, that have to put in a ton of effort to just barely squeak by with C's. That's the way it's designed. I don't know. It's a complete failure, but that's again a different topic.
See, that one that he's a tiny bit passionate about.
I care a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk more about that, I would love to. If you have any of your kids that are high school age and you say, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are about that, awesome. I'm kind of piloting this thing that I'm trying to create, sort of, I don't know exactly, but like I've got like an app in my mind. I've got other stuff that's kind of coming through, and maybe it's on the side or who knows what, but definitely let me know. I'm super interested in teaching my kids Spanish. I'd love advice and direction. So, Duolingo is awesome. Little things like little learning language stuff, resources, videos, stuff like that is great to give you a foundation, because it's impossible to do anything if you don't have like a foundation of what you're trying to do. But then you really need to start practicing it. And so the biggest thing you can do is get rid of fear. Or emphasize getting rid of fear, right? That was a biggest step for me, was telling my wife, like, we're just going to start speaking in Portuguese. And so if you can find somebody or some way, which they have language exchanges, they have apps and websites and stuff that help you connect with people that are native speakers of the other language, or if you know somebody that speaks it fluently, or even if you don't, you guys can just do it yourselves. The biggest thing is like just start making mistakes, start trying to do it. You know, I remember driving a bus, that was my job at the time, and I just look around and be like, a placa, a rua, o que isso? Como que eu chamaria isso? Oh yeah, eu lembro disso, and just trying to like talk to myself in my mind as I'm going around, and knowing that I'm making mistakes, and then looking at it later and saying, oh, how did you say that though? So like kind of being curious about it yourself. So getting out and practicing, making mistakes, those are probably the biggest things. That's why people say, oh, you got to be immersed. You got to be immersed. You don't need to be immersed. It's just that most people lack the dedication to really put in that effort and to make those mistakes, unless they have to buy their food, right? So any other questions on that? Like I said, happy to talk about. Love what you're sharing. I'm going to have to listen to it again and take notes. Great. Growing up, how much of the time do you feel you spent in an average day or week doing intentional learning? Yeah, I'd probably say like less than 4 or 5 hours, less than 4 hours on average. Probably went up as I got older. Probably.
And do you count? You're probably counting things you did just to learn stuff because you wanted to read and learn stuff.
Well,
Or are you counting like assigned,
I'm trying to think of like a
like expected school?
no, I'm trying to think of like an average overall, right? So that would start when I was young and I had
yeah.
more lesson books and stuff. Although it wasn't a lot of time. I feel like when I was younger, I don't know. I feel like there was still more structure when I was younger than just 2 years.
Absolutely.
But
Especially for you.
I was probably most days done about lunchtime, or had to come back and do a little assignment, but that's if I started late or if I was really slacking. I do remember crying at the dining room table a lot because I didn't want to do work. So yeah, I do remember resisting it and not being super productive, where I could have, if I was a little more focused and just got it done, I would have been done faster. I don't know. Those are some thoughts I had there.
Yeah. Okay, so Haley asked if there was something that could have you share, what would it be? I want to know, just because it would be interesting to some of these moms out here. Why did you want to go to foreign countries, and what did you enjoy about, like, what were you looking for? What motivated you to do that? And then what did you love about it?
Okay. So
Is that not complete enough question?
No, that's fine. I think I got some answers for you. I think kind of like a personal note, which is, maybe not as relevant. I remember I was like really interested in getting married. I was like, yeah, that's my next step. That's what I want to do. And focusing on that, trying to, not focusing on that, but like that was my
Trying to be diligent about finding somebody and
yeah,
moving
being a
forward.
good person myself and preparing myself by doing a good job in school and getting ready for a degree and stuff. And I was like 25 probably, and I was still living in Bakersfield, and there was just not a lot of prospects around there, and I remember consciously making the decision like, you know what, it's fine. I'm gonna live my life like I'm gonna make the most of it, even if I don't get married. It's kind of like that. So again, like I say, this is like a personal thing that happened inside of me, and I thought, so what would I do? So what would I do to make my life worthwhile to me, even if I didn't get married? I was like, well, I got to get a really cool career, and I have to do cool things. And I used to think traveling to other countries, that's for people that know how to do that, right? Like you got to have a friend that takes you, or your parents teach you how to do it, or you pay like a travel agency and then you start learning over time little bits. I just didn't feel like that was something that I did. And I was like, that would be really cool to add to my character as a person that, yeah, I can travel the world. And so that's why I decided. I was like, I'm going to take a bunch of my money that I've been saving and being wise about so I could save and have it for a family later, right? And I said, I'm just going to take that and spend it and go on this crazy trip. And, we would be smart about it and not waste our time, or our money, which we did. We were super frugal.
Who'd you go with?
I went with my little sister, so I was graduating with my associate's degree, and she was graduating from high school, and she had always dreamed of going to another country. And I was like, this would be super cool. I wanted to go to England. My cousin was there as an au pair, so it was kind of like a perfect little connection. We first touch base with her, and then we were going to go see Ireland, which was Kate's dream, and then go see Italy, which was my dream. I wanted to see it because of the history, both England and Italy. I love history and the stories of things that happen, and so I really wanted to go and see things that are just like so old, like the hostel that we stayed in that was not a tourist attraction, was older than our country, the United States, right? And so like that's just so cool. And so so that's why we made that trip. And then we were there, it was amazing. I think to your point of like the arts and cultures side of things, like our favorite things were the British Museum, which is incredible, and the National Gallery, which is full of Van Gogh and Monet and Manet and Renoir and all these cool, paintings that you see your whole life, or at least I saw my whole life. I'm starting to find that other people don't necessarily. But that was awesome. And seeing the historic things, and like you have connections, because I knew where it was. I enjoyed it. It wasn't like I had to sit through and memorize dates in history class and then regurgitate them on a test and then they're gone from my memory, which is a lot of my college classes. But it was stuff that I was interested in, stories that I had read and talked about and learned about and watched videos about. So I knew what had happened. So I made connections. I was like, that's why that's important. That's significant. And so my sister and I, we would sit and we'd research while we're sitting in our hostel, like, okay, where are we going to go? Where's the top places? We had limited time, and then pick the best ones out of there. I think that honestly was a thing that I got out of homeschool. A side thing is I got pretty good about researching on, I don't know if it's homeschool, but I think that facilitated it, was researching on like Google, is being good at knowing how to like build good search terms and find the things that I'm looking for. And now that's proven to be super helpful in ChatGPT and AI stuff, where I can get a ton more out of it than my peers can. I had it write a business plan that I submitted, and it won, and it got me entry into a competition. But ChatGPT wrote the whole plan. But it's because I knew how to give it good prompts and kind of walk it through. It's not easy. And I think that was, so I know that's kind of a side thing, but it's important, right? Because you need to be able to find the information. You want to know something, you got to be able to find it instead of just like picking up whatever the first thing on your Instagram feed is. And so, yeah, again, probably maybe too much details, but loved that. Also went to like a play there, which was right, we just like cultural stuff and music and beautiful things. And I remember walking down, my favorite thing in England is just walking down the streets and looking around and being like, this looks like I'm in Harry Potter. I was like, J.K. Rowling's not like a genius. She just wrote about daily life in England. And no, she probably is good. She's a good story writer, right? But it's what it looks like. If you haven't been, like, same thing with J.R.R. Tolkien. It's like he just was describing the British countryside. Like, it's, yeah, that's what it's like. That's what they're like. So what, you know? I don't know. No, it's I love both of those. So I'm not actually trying to be anyway. Yeah, Lori, what's the number one piece of advice you would give to young moms? If you haven't already said that, that's
Yeah.
like you should have gone over this like months ago.
Thank you. I'll get on that right away. So for some of you, you know already, but it is that reminder that you're your child's best teacher. There is nobody better than you. There's no one, and it doesn't matter what degrees they have, what experience they have. There is no one better than the mother of those children. It has a lot to do with your stewardship responsibility. So you are going to, if you're open to it, you're going to receive direction, revelation, inspiration for each one of those children, what they need and how to go about it. So that's huge. And then don't be afraid to do it differently, and don't think that it needs to look like something, for one, definitely not something that you experienced necessarily, and to be open to doing new things. The other thing I share is finding a rhythm for your family. Find what works for your family so that learning is natural, so that it's not we've got to go and do school. It's we're learning, we're adding more things to what we know and what we've experienced, you know, and this is a positive thing. I enjoy bringing more of that into my life. And I don't know exactly how we did that, because I did not have a clue what I was doing. And I did the your sweet things. I did do that curriculum in a box for a while and stuff, because I didn't know any different. I only knew public school, and I thought that I had to measure against that, and so that weighed me down for a while before I finally let go of that and decided just to let them go and read and do the things they were interested in. He loves history. The class in college that he was the SOSI for, the supplemental instructor, was a history class, and one that's supposed to be quite difficult at the school. Really enjoyable, but it's not like he has low expectations or it's an easy class. But he has loved history, and so tell the stories. The stories are huge. If you just spend time in all the way up to junior high, just telling stories, experiencing music and art and getting out in nature, I really honestly do feel like that's enough. And from there, you can start finding out what their passions are, what their interests are, and start building more onto that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, well, the only thing I was going to say that I was thinking about this that I told my wife is, I said, if the only thing you can do is do the out of the box curriculum, do that. And then, because I'm confident that she'll do that for a year, and then she'll feel like, oh, actually it's fine, I can get up, right? Like I feel like there's a lot to be said for feeling safe and confident in what you're doing. When you're taking huge risks and you're really worried about it, and this applies for the job market too, right? If you're like, I've got to get a job, you probably will sell yourself short, because you're so focused on the negative, the stress and the hard part about it and what makes you nervous, that you won't open yourself up and release the potential. And so I
And to
love
reach for something more than
stretch
just
it.
this easy thing that you can, the secure thing.
I don't know, I mean, if that's what I'm necessarily feeling like. I feel like if I know I can always go back to doing the box curriculum, and I know that that's my fallback, I'm more comfortable. It's like it's like, what are you going to do
Foundation.
climbing if you know you've got a trampoline that's going to catch you underneath? Like, how much more daring and crazy will you be if you know you've got a safety net that's going to catch you? And I've told my wife, like, let's start out with whatever you feel comfortable with. I feel totally confident that she could start on the totally advanced, free flowing hippie stuff that my mom did at the end, and it would be fine. And and but if it makes you feel better to have a little bit of that backup plan ready in your back pocket, I think that's great, rather than feeling like, oh no, if I fail, they're going to post, and you've got this huge stress and it's getting in your way. So I'm not saying do. I hope that doesn't. I mean, I'm not.
No. I think that's
It's an
wise.
insight
I
from
like
somebody
it.
that's been through it, that's looking at doing it now with my own kids, and I'm thinking, I did the other one for a while and I turned out fine. Maybe it could be more productive the other way. My mom will say for sure. And I definitely believe that if you can do it right, absolutely be more productive. And I feel like, what are you going to lose? Like, they're going to not have, these dumb stuff that they're not going to need anyway, right? Like, yeah, what do you need math tables for? We got calculators. Hello, 2023. We have ChatGPT that writes stuff for us now. Why do we need to really be writing? I mean, I think it changes the whole world and emphasizes creativity and unique thinking and stuff that what do humans add in this world, right? And there's this, who knows what AI is going to do, but I think it's going to change the world, absolutely. And the people that will get ahead are the people that are willing to accept that and try it out and embrace it in different ways. I see a hand raised.
Gaden.
Okay, trying to unmute. I just want to say this has been so fun. And the number one thing that's coming across is your confidence. And I just love that. I would love for my kids to just be able to talk and feel confident about their education, what they're doing in life, what you're saying. I loved what you said about the career being your effect on the world, not just your job or your work. And I think that's amazing. So yes, just your confidence is just wonderful. It's so refreshing and to hear.
Thank you. Well, I think that everybody deserves to be able to feel that way. I think that people are amazing, have an amazing capacity, but they just don't have the path or the tools to release that within themselves or to see it. I remember I have some of my classmates that they're amazing people. They do a spectacular job, but I watched them at the beginning and they were very timid and very like, does this satisfy what the professor wants? We're just like, we got to operate within the box and not confident about the value that they bring to the team. And so that was one of the things I loved, was helping draw that out of them and make them volunteer that in the future, instead of me just having to draw it out at the beginning. And I think I talk about a lot, video game kids love video games. It's not a surprise. I mean, and that's because video games are designed to let you have a positive effect on the world in the video game, right? Like, you like going into play because you're doing things and it looks like it matters. And well, guess what? The coolest video game in the world, everybody has access to, and it's free to play, and your choices matter, and there's an infinite number of possibilities, and you're the main character, and all the side non-player characters are all fully built out and have unique things that they're going to do. It's an open world, which every video game developers trying to make, right? I'm not a gamer. I've played video games in my life, but I'm not a gamer, but I'm familiar enough to know all this stuff. And it's life. Life is the greatest video game there is. It's all your choices matter. And nobody, excuse me, not nobody, but when you feel that, then there is confidence. And that's why I like the safety net, because you know, on a video game that if you lose, if you die, you can start over again. And so building that is I think an important part of being free and able to go and explore and express and create your own unique effect on the world. Sorry.
He's like me. Talk. Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry for talking.
I told somebody the other day that he talks even more than me. I know.
Just because I
Didn't
don't have
think it
enough
was
experience to shut up. I
That he
see
didn't-
somebody's not on. I see
There
Sarah's
we go, Sarah.
unmuted.
Hey, sorry, I cannot raise my hand because I'm driving and I want to be safe. But I just wanted to say I really loved your advice to your wife, because with my last year with homeschool, or like a year and a half, like I have gone through such crippling anxiety. And for me, like I've kind of done this full circle journey, but the well-educated heart philosophy became almost like this weapon to me, because I just woke up feeling, I just was in so much anxiety, feeling like I don't know what I'm gonna do, and there's so much beauty, but I need some direction. So I feel like that trampoline analogy is so powerful. And of course we can know where we want to get to, but it's okay if we need more structure in the process, and then just slowly release that, which Marlene says too, but I feel like then there's some guilt there too. But I just love that you told your wife that. So that's great.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Thanks, Sarah.
Sorry, I had my face in the screen because it was very quiet, but I did hear it.
Hey, we are at the end, but if there are those of you who still have some questions, please feel free to unmute and ask them, or throw one last question in the chat or something. Also, if you're available, and I don't know what you're doing, but Marley, if you're around, I would love to know if you've got a question for Steve. Or Jen, actually. Jen, I'm glad you were able to join. I know it was near the end, but I'm glad you're here. Anybody else? Anybody that just is curious?
So,
Hello.
Stephen, I have heard all about you for so long, and I don't know if we've met formally, but when I was in Bakersfield, your mom was my mentor. We've gone a lot of the same road with our kids, and I just so grateful for your mom and all that she's taught me. And my oldest is coming back from her mission in 2 weeks, and I can attest to everything that you said. Like the change in how I did school because of Lori's advice helped me with my younger kids, and they learn like you're expressing how your desire to learn. My oldest, unfortunately, does not learn the same way, but she caught on at the end, and she is her own person, and she's doing fantastic, and she'll have her own road. But it's incredible just to learn about this world and just go with what we are interested in. And like you're talking about, like it's never ending. It was such a great discussion today. Thank you so much. And congrats on your new baby.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah, she's pretty cute.
We'd like to see her.
She's pretty cute.
Did you show her a picture or show her at all? I got on late, so.
No, I don't have a picture on my computer or anything. I don't know if it would show up if I put it on my.
Who has all the pictures?
Yeah, Grandma's got more pictures than I do. There's-
Oh my goodness, look at her. Oh, she's
She's a cutie.
beautiful. What's her name?
Good question.
No name yet.
we're free. I go with this whole freedom hippie approach with everything in life now. We are down to Elise and Rebecca, and I think
This is the other one.
Look at
it's a 2-year-old.
girls. Oh my goodness.
She's a
Lori,
cutie.
you're loving it. That's awesome.
Mhm.
I'm
Congratulations.
trying to convince her to stay a few more days so that I can sleep some more after I graduated now. But
Oh,
so
Kathy,
this is helping.
Kathy, it's so good to see you. I appreciate your comments too.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. It's so fun to be on today. I've missed you so much. This is really fun.
Thank you. Thank you. And Jen, it's really good to see you back too. I'm just glad to see your face.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I didn't remember about it earlier. I'll have to go back and watch the recording.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I will. I can't get them online while I'm here in Idaho, but once I get back home, I'll get those videos back up on that channel.
Thank
So
you.
Marley must not
Hit the like and
be
subscribe.
available. Oh yeah. Oh man, he's trying to help me, right? Hit like and subscribe, everybody. I can't do it. I can't. I just can't.
Hit that little notification button at the bottom of your screen.
He'll be way better at that than me. I'll have to hire him as my whatever that would be. Social media,
You're right.
whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Any other questions? Isn't he darling? Isn't he cute and sweet? Oh, thanks. Oh, he is. He's so sweet. He's just a good husband, really great husband, and wonderful, sweet father. And that is the most rewarding thing of all. That is the most important thing to me. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Anytime you need reassurance that whatever you're doing is going to be okay. He turned out great. I mean, seriously great. And I really messed up on so many. I didn't know what I was doing. But we went to art galleries when they were like, you were 7, I think, the first time we went. And he fell in love with Van Gogh and bought 2 little prints and hung them up in his room. And then got to see him in person when he went and traveled. Same thing with the other kids. But we did it. We looked at art and we listened to music and we went outside a whole bunch and we read tons of stories and encouraged reading. We got tied up in, tripped over the list of state standards. I wouldn't do that. I think your idea about having some sort of foundation, some sort of structure that makes you feel safe and comfortable is actually a really good idea, so that then you can fly. You can go from there.
You can let it. You can leave that, but you've got a launch pad, and then the further you go, you build and reinforce your sort of base camp at a further point, and you stabilize yourself with what you're doing.
No, I think that is. Yeah. Hey, good job. I think that's really good. So I love that. Love it. Okay. Got one, Kathy. Okay. What did you do to prepare for the ACT?
Nothing.
Yeah.
That's what I do for all my tests. That's what I did for my final exam yesterday.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
My second daughter's got into BYU, but they got, because she did some with Inspire, was the charter school in California. And we stopped that after the first year. She had some with them and then some homeschool. So they said, well, we don't know what you are. And she's like, I'm a homeschooler. And they said, well, then you need to take the ACT. And she's like, what? So she's panicking a little bit, but she just not worried about, she's really smart. She just reads a ton. But I
think to get into, I think the qualifying scores like a 22 or 24 or something like that. It's not too, it's not too hard to qualify. And then, then you have to have, if you've got other qualifications, right? Like diversity, or you've got your extra products or extracurricular, extra projects.
Well, she already applied and got accepted.
Oh, okay.
Then, they were
so she's just got to go back and do it?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. So just
like
take it.
Going back and forth saying, we're not sure what to do with you. Then finally they said, just go take the ACT, then we'll let you in. And she's like, but you already let me in.
Yeah, that's weird.
So
Yeah,
anyway.
I wouldn't worry about it. I would.
Okay.
But that's my test taking. I built out, when I was doing the tutoring stuff, a test taking recommendation sheet, and it's stuff like multiple choice, strategies and relax and take a breather and realize like what's the worst that happens, right? You go and do a semester or two at your local community college and then you transfer. Like, I mean, again, and giving yourself your stable point, that's okay. Oops. And then realize that it's fine if it doesn't work out, or if it does work out, and it probably will. And so that'll help to like just focus it. I don't know. I don't think I read or studied anything. So I got to a lot of stuff that I was like, I don't know what this is, but I just kept blowing through it and skipping stuff. I did the writing portion, which would have been nice to have added to the score. I mean, yeah, right. That's an option. You don't have to take the ACT with writing. I don't know why you wouldn't. It doesn't negatively affect you.
Okay.
So yeah, my 27 doesn't like count against me the fact that I chose to do writing versus some other people that did not. So I got like a 27 out of 30, which is great. For the ACT, it's like a 90%. It's not that great, but
Awesome.
But it's passable.
yeah,
worked.
it worked.
It's great.
It's not
And
for
you
a
didn't
white
have
male.
and you didn't have to, right? And you didn't have to stress over it. Did you see Lindsay's comment?
No, what?
Like it's back when you said.
A checkpoint to regenerate in the video game. Yeah, that's right. Love it.
Okay. Well,
Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to explain more. And if you wanted to chat offline about it, you can definitely reach out.
yeah, so on LinkedIn is the easiest way to find him, just so if you,
I have Facebook too, if you're on Facebook more,
So you
and
do
I
Messenger?
would get a message. Yeah, but I'm not on Facebook, so I won't see posts. But if you reach out to me, I would get it eventually. But I'm on LinkedIn.
Great.
yeah, and his project that's coming up, I told him, if you're gonna do this, you need to market it to homeschool parents because they would love to have an alternative to college for their kids, something that actually prepares them for jobs, gives them real experience. So you never know, just
I got lots of ideas.
watch for it.
Awesome.
Thanks for being here. It was really nice having you here. And then anybody that's watching after the fact, if you have questions or comments or thoughts, be sure to include those in the end or reach out to me, message me on Facebook or whatever, and I'll be happy to respond to you. And so,
Sure will.
okay. It was fun to get to introduce him to you today. Thanks for being here.
Take care, everyone. Good to thanks for bearing with me. Yes.
Thank you.
You just stay on. So
Mhm.
That's kind of weird.
I think we need to do a class with our high schoolers and have Stevie talk to them. And like, here's what you can like, what you should be focused on. And these are the things you don't need to worry about, just to calm their nerves about things they don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, holy cow. I mean, this is what one of the things that sparked me doing this, creating this idea is I was talking to one of these friends who I made here in my master's program, who's from another country. And so they've got all this visa stuff that they're worried about that's, hanging over them, all this worry and stuff, in addition to normal college, right? Like you come on this visa, you have a bunch of restrictions, you can't get jobs except for specific kinds, and they have to be approved, and it's only certain times. And then once you graduate, then you only have a certain period of time that you can be accepted, and you've got to do all the paperwork stuff in order to be able to qualify for that job. And it's just all this stuff weighing down on them. And they were saying to me, oh, I really hope that this internship works out. I've got two that I've been offered, and I don't know. I think I'm going to choose this one, but I don't know. I really hope that it works out. And it was just like a big slap in the face for me. Like, we are spending 2 years sitting in a classroom learning stuff that we won't remember, and it's probably not relevant because the people that are teaching us are professors who are who most of them have never been in industry. And if they have, it was 5 to 10 years ago. And so it's not really relevant anymore. Our data science teacher graduated from college 20 years ago. Data science, that's like the hottest thing there is right now. If your kid wants a secure job, go into data science. That's probably your biggest bet. I mean, machine learning uses that, AI uses that, and it was already hot before that. So that is like hottest of hot. And she's teaching us from a foundation from 20 years ago. I was like, this is pointless. And then we have one shot to get the internship thing right, which is the one thing that everybody knows is the most significant factor. Anecdotally, everybody knows that internships are really what matters, or placement programs. That's what matters to get you successful after college, to help you secure that job, that better job. But now research is starting to show that too. Like, oh, guess what? All these students that did internships or that did placement programs, they not only make money in the short term, but in the long term. So that means that's significant, because that means that they're graduating and getting a better job, which that makes sense, but that it's not just a short-term effect, right? And then they kind of average out, but they're also making more money. It's putting them on a better trajectory for their career. And you get one shot at that if you're lucky, because not even all programs require that. Like the BYU, some private schools, they emphasize that more because they know they've got to add value. They know their reputation is on the line. Public schools don't, because their reputation is based on their sports team and the research that they do, which is not publicized, which is crazy to me too. Is like, why don't we show what type of a school this is, like, so that I know what quality of a degree I'm getting? Like, wouldn't I want to know that? But they talk about it. It's all part of their behind the door, behind the black box kind of a thing. And it's ridiculous. But why don't we flip that? Why aren't we doing like 2 years worth of internships and then sprinkle a bit of classroom learning on top of it, and have that classroom learning focused on you, so that I can help you provide value at your job. Now you're going to remember it. You're going to learn it better. You're going to be more engaged. It's going to be focused on, okay, what do you need to provide more value? You know, career services. I think to their credit, they're some of the people that do a good job with what they have in a lot of cases. But what they're tasked with is, it's like, hey, take this kid that has nothing and fluff up his resume and make him look good. You know, put on some makeup on him so that he looks good in an interview, and so he can slip by and get the job. But it's not really focused on like, what value does he add? And that's what you should be doing. Is like, how can I add substance to my resume, not fluff to my resume? That's the big thing that I'm thinking about. So, all right, I see, Michelle, that you're unmuted. So if I didn't
Oh,
sorry.
I forgot.
No,
I was
it's
just
fine.
I was
She's
just gonna
nodding her head and like.
it's been great. Not only
Oh, cool.
has it's been entertaining as well.
Good job. Good job.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear.
He's like his dad. So when I looked up my husband on some Rate My Professor or something, he got a 5 out of 5 for
Humor.
humor. Yeah.
Nice.
The one metric that matters.
Yeah. Well, probably the one that matters to him. So, anyway. But I love it. I love that. Like, that makes sense to me. And it seems like the natural next step, especially for those who have been homeschooled and had more of that kind of experience of, I don't know, being able to learn how to learn on your own, keeping learning, the desire to learn alive, learning how to work on your own.
I guess
figure out what you care about.
I was gonna say, my concern is, so, you know, you guys did the homeschooling thing, and I'm doing the homeschooling thing mainly with my youngest because she has a lot of learning disabilities. So I am concerned for her future because of that, and trying to figure out what direction to go. And let's see, she'll be in 8th grade next year. So I'm trying to figure out what to do for the high school years for her.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think, well, that's something I'm kind of excited about. I've talked to a couple other moms who have similar situations, Michelle, and just finding something that is, that'll feed her, you know, that'll be something positive for her, but also that could possibly help her gain employment or, find something that she wants to do with her life and help her to be more successful in her life.
Yep, absolutely.
The education system promotes people that do well academically. And if you don't do well academically, then it's like, ooh, we gotta, get you some remedial courses, or we gotta, create a program or something that'll help you do well academically, where the reality of it is maybe that's not the solution. Maybe you need to be doing something different. Maybe you need to be outside taking care of animals. Maybe you need to be creating art, or maybe you need to be a hiking guide or something like that. Like, right, I don't know, but trying to explore doing things, it's interesting.
Well, hopefully we do have animals, so, and she does enjoy that. She does enjoy animals.
Yeah, well, it's a lot to think about, but I think thinking about your family, what your natural rhythm is, and the things that she enjoys, I think will be probably key to finding out what her path is. And I love the idea that you can be open to whatever works for her, rather than thinking there is one path, one way.
Right. Well, that's what it is once you get out. So this is the thing: is the workforce. It has some of this residual leftover from the education system that is broken. But as a whole, it's driven by money, which I don't view as a negative thing. I view as a positive thing, because it focuses it on what is truly adding value. Because especially now, with as much transparency as many companies have, if you're not adding real value to your customers, you're going to lose your customers. And so you have to be doing something that adds value. Yeah, of course, there are exceptions, but I believe that drives, as a whole, it's driving the economy away from the academic chains that we've had. I know that's not a good analogy, but like this baggage that we've been carrying through to now you get out in the workforce, and it's like, hey, you know what? That doesn't really matter anymore. Like, people are more and more, okay, great, you did that, you checked the box, you can get the job. Now, what are you going to bring to the table? And so then it becomes about building yourself, building your reputation. What do you do? What do you provide? And whether or not it's that everybody understands and knows this, which I don't think they do, but the people that succeed do this, right? The people that succeed in our economy are finding their niche and standing out and creating a way to do that. It's what we should be. That's what we should be teaching. We should go to the workforce and say, hey, what do you guys need? What should we be bringing to you? And looking forward to that, not looking forward to, hey, we got to get you to pass the test, because if you do good on this, then you could get accepted to the Ivy League school that's going to get you that's going to get you this thing. Well, there is some merit that's still, like I said, like some of these leftover stuff, but generally it's starting to be, if you have created a project, if you've written an app, if you've brought a solution to some place somewhere, and then I can bring that to my job interview, well, you're going to be way more relevant and way more likely to be considered than the Ivy League graduate. And the only reason the Ivy League graduate is because they actually debatably do a better job at teaching. Like, they probably do, because they have more money, so they can attract better teachers, right? Like, it's business again. It comes back to it. So
competitive, so they've got to have better.
Right. If I and they can, because they charge more. So so there's a lot of, like, if you can just start figuring out how to do that earlier, how do you add value? How do you differentiate yourself? Some of that kind of stuff. Those are my thoughts on that.
Thank you. I love. Whoops.
Okay.
I think we're probably done. Unless somebody else has got anything else they want to share. But this has been fun for me, actually. Hey, Lindsay, I know you have questions for Stevie. I just know you have things you got to talk to him about.
Who, me?
Yeah, I was just kidding. You just haven't seen him for a while.
I know. My question earlier was, when are you coming back to Bakersfield so I could see the new baby? But
Oh man.
apply to this conversation or anybody else. So.
Yeah.
He'll say, come to where he is.
No.
Bakersfield doesn't have a good enough airport. You can't just fly in, so.
Yeah, it's a long drive with little ones. Well, I would gladly come up there. It looks way prettier. It's
nice
pretty.
place.
It looks really pretty here right now, actually.
Is it,
Yeah.
it's still green, right? Because it hasn't been hot long enough for it to dry out.
Yeah, it's still green and the flowers are in full force and it's really pretty.
Okay.
Any idea where they're putting the temple?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Yep, we've even been instructed to like not even speculate. Like,
Oh, really?
they even said over the pulpit, if you think you know, you don't.
Good. I love that. I'm so glad because I know they have multiple lots and people are saying, oh, it's here. And I'm like, I don't think we know that.
No, we know nothing. So hopefully by the end of the year, we will.
Yeah.
I've already seen people post on Facebook. They've gone to the spot where they think it is and they'll stand and take a picture like, hey.
Yeah, they thought they knew. That's where I thought it was too, but maybe not. Yeah. So.
I was
Well,
kind of,
anyone, so that's good.
I was hoping it was going to be in the spot because it's like 5 minutes from my parents' house.
Yeah, it's walking distance from my sister-in-law is that spot that I thought it was. I was like, oh, I'll just like, we could just walk over there. It'll be so nice. But
But
who
it's
knows?
in a floodplain.
It is like, it's right by the river. So
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with all that here pretty soon too.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let Stevie go get back to his cute little babies.
Thank you, Stevie.
And this was great.
Thank you.
Again, like I said, reach out. I'm happy to talk about this. I can talk forever about any specifics or generals about this stuff.
I just love that you are thinking about it, that you, like, we all recognize the problems with the education system. We're all like aware that it's not working. I love that you're trying to find ways to fix it. Like, that makes me so happy.
Yeah, well, somebody's going to do it. So I at least want to be part of it.
Good job.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Bye. Kathy, so good to see you. Jen, so good to see your face.
Thanks, Lori. Good job. Hi,
Mary,
Jen.
thanks for being here. You're so awesome. You're always right there. Oh yeah, that's right. Kathy and Jen. I met Jen through Kathy. That's fun. You guys were on like that very first call, that very first meeting I had, when I spoke at that homeschool conference. You two were both there, and then the first Friday. That's a long time ago now.
People. Yeah, I can't believe that. That was good job, Lori. You're doing this. Good job.
I can't believe it. I had no idea, right? I thought I'd do a couple more meetings after that Friday. You
needed to do this. This is important. You need to be there for these ladies, for these moms.
I think it's just anybody could do it, but I think it's so nice to when you're scared and you're, I don't know, nervous and whatever, to have somebody else that's just saying it's okay, you can do it. I think that's great. I wish I had somebody like that. I was so nervous. I was just scared to death to do it. I don't know. I love that idea of if there's a thing that you think, oh, I wish I would have had that. Well, can you do that for somebody else? Because I think that's a good way to kind of approach life.
Yeah, that is nice. Well,
Where are you currently, Kathy?
I'm St. George.
Okay.
Yeah, Rob still is managing his business in California, but we're looking to expand to either Dallas, Alabama, or Florida, Orlando area. So at the end of this year is when we'll probably make that leap, but we wanted to get a distance away so he could not be the technician role, but more the management and owner role. So he hired a really good employee and he's looking for a second one now, and it's good. It's a transition time, but yeah, we're here. So we just rented a cute little townhome, and I feel like it's a huge mansion going from the RV to this.
I'll bet. How long were you in the RV then? Was it like 2.5 years or
3.5?
3.5?
Can you believe that? And I
With
miss
how
it,
many
Marty.
children?
I miss it.
Yeah, and with how many children, Kathy?
With 7 children, and my missionary left from there, and so when she left, we had 6. But yeah, I told Rob that I look forward to the next RV we can buy the fastest we can, and he's like, "You're crazy." I'm like, "No, I just don't want to be. I want to see and learn everything and just go around. I enjoy that so much." So
That's what they did. Just
Oh,
traveled
cool.
and
Yeah, you
yeah,
talked about that.
yeah. You remember that?
I remember you talking about it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I know. I love that you loved it, and that's something you actually want to go back to. That's crazy. You're crazy, Kathy.
I know I'm crazy, but and I'm so claustrophobic sitting in a house like this all day.
That's really funny. So I have a sister that lives in St. George now, and I'm supposed to go visit.
Oh.
So
Oh,
I'll
come
have
on
to.
down. Yes. Oh, that'd be so fun. Yep.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen you in person, so that'd be
I
awesome.
know. It'd be so fun.
And then Jen, how's your son? Can we get a tiny quick update?
Oh, it's on mute.
Oh, there we go.
Here he is.
Hey, hi. Good to see you, buddy.
We had a miracle. His surgery went amazing, like the best it could, and it was 12 hours long, but it was super successful. And and he had to have a follow-up procedure, which was really tough too, to like open things back up because it started narrowing after the first month. But it went so well. They were able to balloon open even more parts than they expected, and it going into his liver and everything. So now it's like the doctor said he has a new portal vein basically. So
Oh, that's amazing.
So thank you for your prayers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then who else wants to say hi back there?
Oh, Miriam, you want to say hi? Say hi.
Hi.
She does not want to say hi. She just wants to get out.
Oh, that's funny. Sorry, I can't help you with that, sweetie. Okay, well, thanks, you guys. Jen, I'm so happy. I'm just so glad. And that's what prayers do. I just love when that's what the plan is and that miracle comes through. Yeah. So happy. And you can breathe